met when I was living here in Washington, D.C., and I was recruited to come down as the president of the Greater Austin, California African American Chamber of Commerce in Austin, Texas, and was very young. I was 29 years old, and the organization was 29 years old. And there was an interest in the community to have a charismatic young leader that was committed to not only the growth of the African American business sector there, but also the community. And so when I came down as a community leader for a community that didn't know me, I was, it was quite a welcoming that I had. But one of the things that Ron mentioned that I really want to kind of emphasize is when you don't have the support, the backing, and the wisdom of the older generation to help break down barriers for you, to help create a path, to help inform you of where the potholes are, you are really just kind of lost in the wilderness by yourself. And I think that there is a responsibility that young professionals have as well to listen to connect with, and to engage our older generation. But I also want to say that this movement, any movement, is not owned by any one group.
That's right.
And I think a lot of times what happens is that we don't want to walk away from our roles, even though it might be time. And it's not just time for you, but it's time for the health of the organization.
That's right.
And so when I came into the chamber, my chamber, which was 29 years old, and I was bringing it into its 30th anniversary year, there were a lot of corporate members that had walked away from us because they just didn't want to do business with my chamber. They just were like, we don't see the value proposition. We don't understand why you all even exist. We never see anything written down. And so it was really important for me, particularly because I look like the young girl that I am, coming into these rooms, to make sure that I had a strategic vision for this organization. So before I even started my job with the chamber, I started writing down all my strategic plans and the things that I wanted to do with this organization. And so when I went and met with large corporate partners and met with them very quickly, I had a strategic plan, and I could say, this is what we're doing. This is who we are becoming. This is who we are. One of the other things that I had to do with my chamber was a board restructuring. There was a need for turnover on my board. The issues that my chamber had, I couldn't just say that was the executive director's fault. It was institutionalized throughout the entire organization. And so we needed to make sure that we cleaned house across the board, because you can bring down a shiny new president, right, and put him in a dirty house, and I'm going to end up getting dirty at some point. And so for me, I wanted to make sure that we had a team of people that were diverse and reflective of our city. John recently mentioned in his previous remarks earlier today about how the demographics of major cities are shifting. My city has 8% of the population is African Americans. Every city is not meant to be DC, Atlanta, Chicago, and they won't be that. But when you're talking about these millennials moving into your city, coming for these companies, like working at Dell, coming to work at Facebook, coming to work at Google, these are all businesses that exist in Austin. They want to have a place to go, and they want their voice to be heard. And so I want to talk a little bit about who Generation Y is, who I am. We're 18 to 34 years old. We make up 30% of the U.S. population right now. So we're not somebody that you can just forget about, because we're also in those critical years where you're going to see us again. So if you think that that 20-year-old is the person you just passed up, pretty soon they'll be 30, and you'll see them again at some other point in time. They might have a role that might be supportive to something that you're doing, but they might be in a leadership position. The minority population of Gen Y makes up a third of that population, and then African Americans make up 34% of who that is. Now, Kaufman Foundation recently did a report. It was called The Young Invincibles, and it talked about entrepreneurial appetite of Generation Y, Gen Y, millennials. And what it found was really astounding to me. 64% of African Americans between the ages of 18 to 34 wanted to start a business. 65% for Hispanics, so there was a strong parallel there. That was against 45% for white. So there is a serious hunger and a thirst for entrepreneurship in our community And as John mentioned, even younger than that, they're still hungry. They still want to be in charge. We look at ourselves as go-getters. We want to be in leadership positions. We don't believe in working at a company for 20, 30 years, working our way up. We are, we're the rebel rousers. That's who we are. We're the ones that don't want limitations placed against us. We want to create our destiny.